answer portion to be conducted by Winslow Billings.
We're also taking questions from the audience, so if you have any questions about the book, about the publishing process, about the company, please feel free to shout them out so we can answer those great questions that you have.
What made you come up with the topic?
I came up with the topic last year. Every November is National Novel Writing Month, and since about 2019, I have been doing it every year. Last year, after moving back home, I had no intentions at all of writing. I was dealing with visual impairment. I was at home with my parents. I just, didn't have it in me. And I remember after completing my first Feast of Tabernacles, and being in prayer one day, the idea just came to me to have a story centered around the feast because it is such a beautiful foreshadow of what's to come. In the kingdom of heaven, I don't know about you, earth is ghetto. I'm ready to get up out of here. So it's something that I look forward to. It talks about Revelations, how great it's going to be in the blood and the rain. I'm trying to go there because here ain't it. So that was the inspiration behind the topic of the story.
Is there going to be a second part to this one?
Yes, actually, the next book I'm actually going to be writing starting next Wednesday. I think next Wednesday, whenever November starts next week. And it's actually going to be the prequel to this book. And it's really interesting how that came about because I planned a book to write back in 2021 that was not going to be Christian in any shape, form, or fashion. It was not going to be that. And the Most High didn't let me write it because a lot of things that I was dealing with that year. And when he gave me the idea for this book one day when I was writing, actually the first day when I started writing the story, the characters that are supposed to be in the first book appeared in the story. Not by my own inspiration, I'm going to tell you that now. I did not plan for them to be included in the story at all. So after finishing the book, it only felt right to go back to that original story and tell their story because it's actually about a young woman who is a computer scientist, computer website developer, all of those things, and she's visually impaired. So the thing in which she is the most good at, she is struggling to do because of her disability. So I really am excited to sit down and start writing that story, which is a part of my own story, starting next month.
It's funny, because as a young girl, we know that you were very intelligent. And I see that you also chose in the book to use a young, intelligent girl with the same thing that you're dealing with. But I just thank God that no matter what kind, He the healer. And you know He the eye. So you know He the mind. And I'm just so proud of you. I don't know what's going on. I asking questions are coming. I took her over this week. So I don't know what asking questions I'm making comments. But I'm not surprised at all, really not. Because that's who you are.
And I think that's kind of what I want to share in these stories is, especially when you're reading Christian romance, it seems so lofty, right? You have these people who will never do nothing wrong, right? Very, very, very cookie cutter stories. And I'm just like, no, I want something real because I don't know about you, but I be struggling. I was struggling before I showed up today. Like, I need to write a story that shows me what it looks like to struggle, but to trust the Most High while I'm struggling. To not deviate from my faith while I'm struggling. Like, even when I'm beat down and I can't see straight, like the story that's being shown in my next book is, like, this is like a woman who was making bukus of money, being very successful in what she was doing, and all of that stopped with her visual impairment. And understanding that just because your plans stop when something happens don't mean that the Most High's plan can stop. And that's something that I've had to learn in my own life. Like you said, like He is a healer. Each of my books have a Bible verse that is based on. So Love and Sukkot is based on Psalms 37, verses 4 and 5. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Trust in Him, and commit your ways to Him, and He will do this. That's what this story is based upon. And the next one is based on Exodus 15, where He says, if you keep my commandments, I'm not going to give you the thesis of Egypt because I am the Lord your healer. And that's what the character's going to have to learn for herself, that even when things go wrong, can still heal. Like, it ain't got to be what the doctor said. It ain't got to be what the doctor said. It's not.
So they asked about three things and how it spilled off, and she got that this was a novel. Okay, so it sounds like you're planning on creating a series at some point. But my question for you is, how difficult was it for you to write this? Because everybody talks about the highlight. We're looking at the finished product, but the struggle that's going to help you write your next book. How difficult was it to write this piece?
Like I said earlier, I didn't plan to write this book at all. Because typically I spend the month of October planning the book that I'm going to write, and I sit down in November and I write it. It was literally maybe like October 20th when the Holy Spirit was like, yeah, sit down and write that. And I was like, okay, well, let me write a few notes down, and we're going to figure this out as we go along. The most difficult part of the process was actually, I never intended to really publish the book because this isn't my first completed novel. My first completed novel, I completed that in 2020 and split most of 2021 wanting to publish that book. And every time I hit a wall, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to publish this book, to the point where I got to understand, like, this ain't the book that the Most High wants me to publish. So when he gave me the idea, I was like, okay, well, I'll write a book that ain't nothing to it, because writing actually is very soothing for me, especially because I have such difficulty reading. Like, I was the type of person, I was reading 200 books a year. I was reading 300 books a year. That was nothing for me. And so now, like, I've struggled to get to 100 books last year. This week, I think I finally hit maybe 105, right? So my vision is allowing me to do a little bit more as it concerns reading. I read my first ebook in 3 years this month, right? I have lost a part of my identity that was very, very crucial, because everybody that knows me, like, if you see me anywhere, I was reading a book. I remember one time in college, I was at a club, I was at a party, at the bar, and a dude walked up to me, trying to holler at me, and got mad because I was reading a book in the morning. And I was like, you're going to actually come up here. So that was a very big part of my identity that I lost. But writing, and then the most I had to start writing literally the year before I lost my vision. Starting to write actually became a very healing process for me. One of the books I'm actually going to publish next year is a collection of short stories, just from times where I was having a hard day, the kids were on my nerves, and I was ready to go. And I really just learned to sit down, take a few minutes, and just write a story. And it helps me to calm down. So the complexity and the difficulty wasn't actually in the writing. It was getting to the place where I published the book, because I never intended to self-publish. Never, ever, ever, ever didn't want to do it. I always intended to sell my book to a traditional publishing house and have them do all the hard work and just sit there and be there. And the Most High was like, nah, good, get up and work. And I was like, okay, look, I guess we're gonna do this. So that was the hardest thing for me, was getting out of my own way and allowing the thing to become a thing, because that's not what I wanted to do, or how I wanted to do it.
So do you have an intended audience? Would you say your books are geared more toward actually younger people, like you got some youth feedback here, like are you saying that your book would maybe be geared toward that kind of generation, where they can see real life, the Christian journey, and I'm just going to say your turning of faith, period, where you see life happens, but we get back up. It's not an all day holy. I'm going to talk to you this way. Would you say that, in some respects from your life experience, that would you say that your intended audience is more toward the, I'm not going to say teen, I'm going to say the modern adult now, the modern adult that we're dealing with?
I think who I would intend to reach is definitely going to be those, I wouldn't say maybe like early college, but maybe like 20 and up, just from my own experiences. I didn't really start trying to figure out my life and get close to the Most High until I was in that age range, right? And that's the age range I really want to give people and show people what it's like to have this authentic relationship. Because, like I said before, a lot of the Christian romances, the Christian books that you read, like, I ain't gonna lie to my grandma, I love you, Granny, but it sounds like something my grandma would say, right? Like, first page, I'm blessed and highly favored. I was like, nobody really starts conversations like that. So I definitely wanted to want it to be like me having this conversation right now where you don't feel like I'm shoving a church sermon down your throat. Like, no, we're having conversations. And I want you to know that it's hard. The Most High helped me because, things happen, so I want it to be very much people who have maybe drifted away from the church, the traditional church, people who have tried to seek the Most High for themselves, people who are conflicted or confused about what to believe in. I want to be able to show them what it's like to have a genuine, authentic relationship, that it don't look like a church service. Because a lot of people go to church, but when we go home, our lives don't look like a church service, right? How we pray don't look like how you pray in the church. It just be like, I'm sorry, I just touched your place and I ain't been so good to you. Like, that's what it sounds like. Yeah, like, I'm coming to you humble as I know how. Me get humble and humble. Like, we don't. So I wanted to give that type of vibe to those people who are really trying to figure life out, who are really trying to find the Most High, who are really trying to have a relationship. So definitely like the 20 to maybe 45-year range, because I can't tell you how many people that are older than me that I've had to be like, this is how relationships with the Most High can look as well. This is how I can look up as well. So thank you for that.
And in your book, in writing, and with all the characters, it's somewhere in your mind, were you thinking of the young people that have another problem, about a mental problem that they're dealing with, that don't know how, and God gave you words to say to help those, having all this faith, this is what I said, faith without works is dead, that to help them, because we have a lot of young kids with inheritance now that people overlook. With your condition and all this in the back of your mind and what God is saying to you, and that book you tried to write at first, and all of this, do you ever think about the young people also that could be ministered to, mentored by your book? Have you ever thought about mentoring some young people with your book?
So I'm gonna answer that in 2 different ways. The first way is, honestly, when I wrote this book, I wrote it from the mindset of feeling like because I've always been. If anybody watch Alvin and Chipmunks, right? I was Simon, right? I wasn't putting up. I wasn't bad. I wasn't the youngest, sick, and everybody had to take care of. But I was in the middle. People didn't have to worry about me in school because I was gonna make good grades. They didn't have to worry about me going out doing nothing crazy because I like to be at home in the bed at a reasonable hour. Like I had my life. I felt like I had my life in order. I felt like I checked off the boxes. I was supposed to. I went to college. I got a job. I traveled a little bit. I paid my bills. I didn't get on too many people's nerves. I was nice to people. The people who feel like they got it together and then suddenly hit a wall where stuff started to crumble and fall apart. That's who I was really trying to talk to in this, because I don't think we do, but we don't talk about like what does it look like when you're on a road thinking like you're headed towards a certain destination and you hit a place where you cannot go any further and you have no choice but to be able to turn, but to make a different choice. I would like to talk more about disabilities because that's one of the main things that I want to talk about with my writing is people who are disabled. Because a lot of stories that you read, these people be perfect, skin be perfect, they ain't got no pimples, they sit up straight in their chair, they don't slouch, they don't got no neck issues, back issues, they ain't balding, they ain't going, like they're perfect individuals. The motto of me as an author is imperfect people sing in the face of a perfect God. Because I am not perfect. As much as I wanted to convince myself that I was perfect and I had everything together, I had to learn in a very hard way. Girl, you ain't got nothing together but your shoelaces and barely that. So that's what I really wanted to focus on. But since I'm now working at a school with disabled kids, Mississippi School for the Blind, I have 3 children who are braille students. I have one that's completely blind. All of them have visual impairments to some scale. Being able to write stories and things for them is something I may get to eventually. But right now, I'm just trying to get my story out in pieces. So each of my books right now has a little piece of my life and my story in it. And I feel that when I finish getting my life story out, then I'll be able to deviate and get some other people's story. So that's the first part of that question. The second part of it is mentoring people. I'm actually an active life coach, where I'm a spiritual life coach, where people come to me who are struggling with their relationship with the Most High. They're struggling, battling their sin, because again, we sit in church and think everybody's perfect, not realizing that that's an alcoholic over there. That person is struggling with lust. This person is struggling with this. This person is struggling with that. Because all we see is, oh, they can sing very well. Like that's us to this church place. We see that, but we don't see what's going on the inside. So what I do is, people who are struggling with their relationship with the Most High, they struggling with sin, they seek me out. I'll be like, okay, let's sit down and figure this out. Let's actually see what the Word says and get you to a better place. And every single one of the people that I'm blessed to say this, that every single one of the people that I've worked with so far, like within a month, their lives have changed. And it's not me, it's the Most High working through me. And I'm so grateful for that, because I'm always having someone that younger people have been, and I can't even say these younger people, these people older than me, these people that are in their 40s that I'm working with right now. But I've been able to help them figure out what their life and their walk should look like. So one of my goals in my life is just to connect with people, not just people who are younger, but people who are struggling. People who are struggling to know who they are by knowing whose they are. And helping to figure out whose are you. Let's figure that part out. And then as you figure that out, you be like, oh, so he did make me to be somebody. Yeah, of course. He wouldn't make you without reason. He's not an idol creator. So that's something I'm also incredibly passionate about doing.
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, first pronounce the name.
Love is Sukkot, so it's Sukkot.
Okay. How did you come up with that?
So it's actually Hebrew for the Feast of Tabernacles. It's talked about in Leviticus 3. That's what the book is about. It's one of the 7 biblical feasts that were given in Leviticus. And it's actually the foreshadowing of the marriage feast of the Lamb. Just for a little background information, each of the feasts were given to us in Leviticus for Christ to do for us. So in his walk here, when he's first coming, he did the first 3, which is Passover, Passover, offering the first fruits, and Heavenly Holy Spirit. The Feast of Weeks. So that was his death, his resurrection, and the coming of the Holy Spirit. So in his second coming, he's going to do the last feast, which is the Feast of Trumpets, which is the announcement of the King. The King has come. The Day of Atonement, which is the final judgment day. And then the Feast of Tabernacles is the marriage supper of the Lamb. And it's one of my favorites. And I just have the word Sukkot. Sukkot sounds a lot more fancier than Feast of Tabernacles. It's a little shorter title too, instead of putting Feast of Tabernacles on it. So that's where I got it from. It's Hebrew.
Yeah.
His name is
It makes one thing about me. Everybody know I'm academic. I love words. I just read dictionaries. It's fun. One of the things, if you're gonna read one of my books, take a dictionary with you. Take a dictionary with you. Sorry, not sorry. I have not thought. Okay, I take it back. So the Most High is very interesting with me. He will give me a download, and I just like, I don't know what to do with it just right now. But that's nice. I'm gonna write it down. Actually, not this book, but he did give me an idea for a book series for more younger kids, probably going to be middle grade, YA kids, that is actually going to be looking great for audio. Just a little preview of that. I'm looking to have it be a graphic novel because of kind of the action scenes for it. It's going to be based on, again, I love end times, I love eschatology, the book of Revelation, is my favorite book of the Bible. It's going to be based on end times and a lot of the fighting and warring that's going to happen during that time. And that book is going to look great on somebody's TV. So my goal right now, I will begin writing my next novel for this series specifically in November. My goal is to drop 3 books next year. One of them is going to be a collection of short stories revolving around the end times. And that comes basically from, I love one of the books, extra biblical books that I love is the book of Joshua. And I love it because it tells you the same stories as the book of Genesis, but you kind of get to see a little bit more about what the people was thinking, right? So you're told that Abraham was told to take Isaac up on the mountain and kill him, but you're not really told what he was thinking when he was told him. And the book of Joshua actually gives you a lot more of the information. And one of my favorite stories in the book is actually about Noah. He was told 120 years in advance that the world was going to flood. So Noah was just like, well, shoot, let's just go ahead and build this boat. I ain't trying to have no wife, no kids. It's ghetto. Everybody can die. And the Most High told him, no, go get your wife, have you some kids. Like he told him very specifically. That's one of the things that I hear a lot about when people talk about end times. When, ain't no supposed to be married and given in marriage. And I think about that because I see a lot of people moving in that way. But marriage is something that the Most High has blessed. It is something that He's given us to teach us about His covenant, about being His bride, being the bride of Christ. And it makes me think about what He told Noah. Like, Noah knew the world was going to end. He was like, no, get you a girl, have you some kids. You're going to be all right. And that's kind of where those short stories are going to be talking about, like, yeah, the world is ending, but there's still love for you. So I have that book. I have the next book. I have the next 2 books in this series that's going to come out. The first one that I'm writing is going to be about the towers, Christian and Amorite towers, how they get together. And then one of the characters in this book that kind of has an interesting story, which is a young lady in the story. Her name is Ashanti. And she's going to be book 3 in the series, kind of learning about her healing process. It's going to be about learning how to trust the Most High. Like, some really crazy stuff happens to her, and she gets broken down, and she's going to have to figure out how to trust Him again, which is interesting. When people say, I don't trust God, what you mean? So you'll be able to see that because a lot of people live that life and need help trying to figure out how to get back to the place where they can trust Him with their full heart. So, yes, 3 books dropping next year.
So is this book going to have like a more of a modernization blend with today's topics, like the whole LGBT community and Hollywood community, so
I have not thought about branching that far out. That's only because, like I said before, right now I'm just telling my story, right, and the things that I'm seeing. I think it would be interesting to get into those topics because as Christians we are called to speak about what the Bible says and truth and addressing those things because Scripture says that in these days men will be lovers of themselves and being able to address that in a way that still loves on people but shows them that the Most High has a plan and it's the best thing for us to go by His plan. Not yet, but give me some time. We'll probably hurt some more people's feelings.
So do you feel that the church is declining and you're going to help bring more members back or make more relevant?
This is one of the things where I feel like it's very controversial because my goal is not to build churches. My goal is to build believers. And I'm definitely like an Acts Christian. Like, they was in people's houses. Like, when 2 people gather together, there's a church. Like, there's an assembly. My goal is to get people in relationship with the Most High. Whether they join a church or not, they got nothing to do with me. He'll work that out as He sees fit. My goal is, do you love Him? Do you trust Him? Do you got a relationship with Him? And that's where my books are very much focused on. Like, is building, having people build in one-on-one individual relationships with the Most High, writing for themselves. There's literally a list of biblical references in the back of my book. Because I'm just like, I wrote about a lot of stuff that people have questions about. A lot of people have no idea what Sukkot is or what Feast of Tabernacles is. There's a list of verses at the back that tell you about it. I want you to go find for yourself. Taste the seed. But it is good. So, yeah.
So you're just planting the seed. And that's what that's what I'm gathering. That's what she's here for. She's gonna plant the seed to a lot of people. Somebody else will grab one along the way. But with that, thought about it children.
That's funny because when I showed, I talked to my students because I always ask them students at the beginning of the year, what you want to be when you grow up? Because when I ask you to do this work you don't want to do, I'm like, well, you want to be a business owner. And business owners kind of have to know mathematics. Okay, how you gonna pay people and buy stuff if you don't know mathematics, right? And I do that by also sharing what I want to be when I grow up. So I told you, I want to be a published author. So when my book came out, I brought my book to school and showed them, like, hey, like, I did the thing that I said I wanted to do. Like, you can do it too. And I can tell you every single one of my kids, like, I'm going to go buy a copy. Maybe not this copy. Okay, maybe not. maybe not just yet. I have not thought about children's literature, to be honest. The youngest I've thought about going is maybe middle grade, young adult, which is probably about like your high school age kids. Because y'all know with kids all day, every day, and I'll be sick of them, sorry.
Anybody got any more questions?
Bill, I do have to ask this. How long did it take you to write this particular book that you just did? How long did it physically, mentally take you to write it?
I typically write my books in 3-month phases. So I do a month of planning, just praying about, again, ideas for the book. I do about a month of writing to get the whole book out. And then I spend about a month doing edits, where I go through and I do a read through myself, fine-tune anything, fix any plot holes, anything like that, and then send it off to an editor. So the actual hands-on writing process took me a month, but in the whole process together to get a finished, well, not this finished product, but get a finished product, took me about 3 months to make.
Have you ever thought about, we know how much you read, your parents can punish you, but we're going to tell you that story. Okay, so have you ever thought about just talking to some teenagers about reading, how important reading is, and how to learn how to read? Just to read a book don't mean you know how to. It's a difference. And have you ever just thought about talking to some teenagers that love to read, but really not understanding what they would read? A couple years in rather. And I went to a third grade meeting, and I think the teachers need to go back. Have you? Because I have, you see children that just love to read. When you go to ask a question, they don't know nothing about what they read. They don't understand. And all that reading will help if you teach them how to just read and comprehend, go back and look at the story and answer the questions to the story, so I can know. And then they maybe can get that mind to be a publisher, to be a writer. You know what I'm saying? And to go higher. And I tell you, you're not going to go for it if you can't read, because you signed the wrong contract. You know, so have you ever thought about that? Because you went out of school and you done taught it all of it.
So let me get in my teacher bag for a second. One of the things that I find, well, two things I say that keeps kids from being able to read or even to enjoy reading. One is versatility in what they're reading. Because that's literally why I wrote the book that I wrote. I got tired of reading books about white people. I'm not white. I don't relate. I don't. And even like the books about black people that they have, like for example, in my library, I like to mix it up for my kids. I like them to have variety. The only book that I was able to find for my children, because I also have my Bible still in as well. The only book I was able to find for my children is Henry's Box, which is basically a story about slavery. And I'm just like, kids today cannot relate to slavery. They really don't have that exposure, especially how it's being taught in today's school. So one of the things that I'm doing my own writing is I'm trying to provide for guidance. I want people to be able to experience different things, and that's what I do for kids as well. Like that's one of the things I actively did as a teacher before having Braille kids and kids that need a large print. Was I was investing, like my classroom library is the same size as my personal library, so it's about 1,000 books each. Was getting them exposure to different kinds of books and figuring out what they like, because if you like cars, why I keep giving you books about astronauts? Like, you don't care about it, right? So that's one of the things, like giving kids material that one they can relate to, that they care about. That way they can get engaged, because they got a lot of comprehension if you tell them something about something that they care about. And the other thing is about exposure. Even research shows that kids struggle with reading comprehension because they don't have background knowledge. Right. I'm talking to you about astronauts. You don't know what a space shuttle is. Right. You ain't never seen an astronaut movie. Like, you don't know what that is. So your ability to understand it is very limited. So you think about kids like that are in these areas, especially Mississippi. I can't tell you how many students that I'm taught in forest as well that told me that Mississippi was that forest was a kids, hey, what you do over the weekend? Oh, we went on a trip. Okay, where you go? We went to Target. You mean in North Jackson? Yeah. That's the amount of exposure that they've had in life, right? They don't know what it's like to go out to other places because they ain't been there, right? Yes, you can go there in books, but also you have kids who have difficulty reading, right? So those are the main two things that I'm really trying to get at: getting kids exposure to things and finding things that they can enjoy, giving them variety. And when they find what they like, hit in hard on that thing that they like, on the topic that they like, because they're gonna have a whole lot of comprehension when you start talking to them about things that they care about. Because otherwise, like just think about you. When people start talking about stuff you don't care about, I don't know. I know I'm like this. People start talking about football, I get like that little, I get drool one of my mouth, my eyes go fuzzy. I'm just like, I have no desire to talk about this subject to you. So those are the main things that I really try to do with younger kids is figuring out what they actually enjoy, what they actually like, and giving them books based on what they are into. And also giving them to exposure, because that's how we grow kids, that's how we grow readers. And also read to your kids at night. If you got kids, I don't care if it's a magazine, read to your kids at night, make them read to you. That's how you learn how to read together.
Oxymoron. Y'all just wordplay, because we both like it.
Yes.
What does this mean, this book mean to you and for you?
It means a promise answer. I was I want to say a freshman in college. I went to the church called the True Church. It's actually the first church I ever went to that had Saturday service, which is very interesting when I think back on that now in my life. But I remember being in church service one day, and the pastor prophesied over me and saying that I was going to be a published author. Right? So there's something kind of that's always been in the back of my mind. But really since maybe 2018, every time I introduce myself to a class of students, I always introduce myself and say, I want to be a published author when I get older. I want to be the person that writes the books that you guys are reading, right? It's never something that I actually thought I would be living in, right? Because we've all been in church, we've all had somebody prophesy to you about something. I've had it happen to me several times. I had never seen the fruits of a prophecy come to pass, like I've seen this come to pass. I've had things where you're like, you know what, this feels like what they said all the years ago that would happen, but this is definitely what I would say a promise answered. It means to me freedom because I feel like a lot of this feels well. I feel like I'm gifted. I feel like I got good stuff inside of me that I want to get out. Being able to have my first book out has really opened, like, going from a point where I didn't want to publish my own book. So I'm talking about I'm trying to publish 3 next year. I don't know how I'm going to do it, or who won't have time to help me do it. But it's literally freedom for me. It's me being able to express myself. It's being able to share my story and other people's story. It's me being able to support myself so I can teach the kids that want to learn and not the kids that they put in class. Just put it out there. It's being able to see come to pass the things that I've dreamed about. If that makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody got any more questions?
All right. Well, next on the program we have acknowledgments.
Okay, so I hear from my pastor all the time. He always says that if you can write a check and complete the vision is not big enough, right? If you can do it by yourself and complete the vision is not big enough. And I will say everything concerning my book has been so much bigger than me. But I just want to shout out the people that helped this come into reality. First, I want to shout out Jan at the Foothills for offering this space to me and offering the catering, all the food that we have on offer this evening. I want to thank Creative Flow, which is Ms. LaWanda Jones, for event design, like the room design, all of the decorations that you see, for being my hostess. I want to thank Winslow Radio for being my interviewer for this program. I want to thank C's Creations for all of the print materials that you have, the bookmarks, the programs, the flyers, the poster that you saw outside. All of those things were done by their print studio, so that you are able to contact these people for yourself. I want to thank Bill's Images for all of the photography and videography for this day. And then there's one last person I want to thank. Wanda, if you'll help me. Now, this person has helped me. This person has helped me every step of this book. I've I've never met somebody who worked harder to sell this book than me. So I want to take and give this to my mama, who has given